I've been using Nikon since I started at 2003, and finally I got myself a Nikon Z6 III. We're gonna open this up, we're gonna talk all about it, and I'm gonna give you 10 reasons why this camera is one of the best and probably the best for its price. Check this out. What's up guys, Million from Camera to Freedom. If you guys use your camera to take photos and videos and make YouTube content so that you can live a life of freedom like how I'm doing, like how I'm trying to do, then hit that like and subscribe and let's go. So guys, it's Christmas Day and my wife gifted me a Nikon Z6 III. She supports me 100%, and without her support, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm so lucky I have a supportive wife that always knows what to get me. She got me a full setup. I'm gonna open it up, we're gonna set it up together. I'm gonna give you 10 reasons why the Nikon Z6 III is the best. I've already studied this camera before it even came out. I love Nikon. I have the Nikon Z8. Out of all the Nikon camera, my Nikon Z8 to me is the very best camera. It is a beast. It is very big, and I use this camera a lot, but with the lens together, it's a workhorse. It's definitely top of the food chain. It is heavy, but I like to have a camera B, and I shoot a lot of events, parties, things, small kinds. I do a lot of birthday parties, small company parties and things like that. I use this for weddings and big corporate photos. I have the Nikon Z6. Nikon Z6, when it first came out, the best camera. Finally could shoot video. Nikon is finally in the top of the video game, and Nikon bought out Red. They're gonna be the best company. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love cameras. As you can see behind me, I have the Blackmagic, I got the Red Komodo, I got all kinds of cameras. I love cameras, I'm a camera geek. So I love seeing what the pros and cons are with each of them, but the Nikons are the best. The reason why I love Nikon is because when it comes to photography, to me, there's only two cameras that really just kills it, is Nikon and Canon. Every wedding photographer you see either has a Canon or a Nikon, and of course nowadays people are jumping onto the Sony bandwagon. Sony, you get so much technical aspect for its price. But that's one thing about Sony, in my opinion, it feels very technical. It feels like a computer that you're holding instead of like a Nikon, it feels like a paintbrush that you're holding, right? I mean, some of you understand what I'm trying to say, but when it comes to taking photos, it just feels like a part of you and you're just creating masterpieces. So that's why I love Nikon. And I guess I am a little biased because my very first camera I owned was a Nikon D70 back in 2003. I might have to get a Nikon tattoo. Anyways, let's open this up. So as I'm opening this up, let's go ahead and talk about the 10 reasons. I'm sorry for taking so long to get here, by the way. 10 reasons why I think that Nikon Z6 III is the very best. The chip is a stacked sensor. So the CMOS sensors, from what I'm reading, they're very vague about it. It combines a memory chip and a high-speed sensory chip together. Now that just sounds crazy to me, right? But they put multiple different kinds of chips together to create a powerful camera that can do so many things. One of them, of course, being that it creates a really great rolling shutter. So when you pan left and right, normally you could see images turning like this. It wobbles, it has a rolling shutter effect, but it creates a lot less because of the chip. All right, you got some dongles, you got some straps, you got some cables. Thank you, wifey, for hooking me up with a Nikon Z6 III. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. So here's my Nikon Z6, one of my favorite cameras. It's a great camera. And I thought that, oh, it's a Nikon Z6 III, it'll just be a technical upgrade. But let me tell you something, it is a physical upgrade. This literally feels a little older. It is a little older, but this body itself, the way it's designed, the grip, it's got a strong, deeper grip. This one is kind of small. I always hold it like this, but I feel like I'm about to lose it because only half my finger fits in there. But this one has a full grip, and just the design of it looks great. It reminds me of the Z8 look, but a baby version of it. So the look and feel and the material itself is definitely an upgrade. So let me open up this cage while we talk about this. The Night Eagle cage. Now this is different. I like how it's like one-off. It's a different kind of design. Not a normal blocky cage that I'm used to. It looks fancy. The reason why the Nikon Z6 is gonna replace most of my cameras, not my Z8, but most of my cameras that I have up right now, is because the Z6 III could shoot in 4K without any crop in 60 FPS. This thing could shoot in 6K without cropping. So a lot of my wedding gigs, I love to shoot in 60 frames at 4K, and most of my cameras, all my cameras, crop into APS mode when it goes into 60 FPS at 4K. Many cameras have to crop in, it's just too much. This one does not crop in at all. So that's already a game changer. That's already a winner. And on top of that, this camera can shoot in 120 frames per second at 4K. When it comes to like 120 frames per second, it usually crops into HD mode. And now you could do 240 frames per second in HD mode, which is super slow motion. And you could shoot all that in log. And it also captures audio. Most of the cameras, if you shoot in super slow motion, 120, it doesn't record the audio, right? I mean, that's normal. I expect that. It's like, who's gonna really use that for audio? You want to do it for a slow motion effect. But what if you want the audio? What if you change your mind and you don't want to do slow motion? You want to keep it as a normal, regular video. You just happen to have shot at 120 frames per second. You're safe. So that alone is a big game changer for me. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Ooh, that is nice. And it's light too. I really like that. And it comes with a handle as well. So this camera also has one of the best autofocus. So autofocus has been super good on my Nikon cameras, and I experienced it on my Nikon Z8. And one thing, an autofocus that the Nikon Z6 III, the Z8, Z9 does that no other camera would do, is that when you are in full autofocus mode and you tap somebody walking down, like from a bride walking down the aisle, you tap anywhere on the body, on the screen, it'll instantly find their face, and then it'll track their face coming down. It's no other cameras do that. If you tap the body, then it's gonna try to track the body, and you know, it might be a weird focus point or whatever. It's worked before. It's fine. But it feels so magical when you tap someone on the screen being kind of small. So you know what I mean? It's not so accurate that you're touching somebody here, but when you tap somebody, it finds their face and it'll automatically put the tracker on their face as the bride is walking down. That's a game changer. Now it's gonna get to a point where, oh, if the autofocus isn't as amazing, then this camera sucks. When that's a normal thing, that the autofocus is, you know, It autofocuses on dogs' eyes, pets, birds, vehicles, trains, planes, whatever. It knows what it is. You open this up and look at all this little extra bolts and nuts that's stored in here. Oh wow, you could put a little stash in there. You could put a little something in there and hide it if you want to. That's really cool. All right, I love it. It also charges through the USB-C. My Nikon Z8 does it. Some of my camera does it, but most cameras don't do it. Most cameras don't have the ability to put in a battery power through the USB to charge your battery and power your camera at the same time. You would think that's just a normal thing, right? That makes sense, right? Well, a lot of the cameras don't have that ability, but nowadays the new cameras are coming out with it, and Nikon Z6 III also has it. And then you will have this camera running all day. Finally, Nikon has a camera that has a articulating screen. You probably think this is normal. Yes, the camera that I'm shooting with, the Lumix S5 II, my GH5, all the Sony cameras, I have the camera flipped up so I could see myself and I'm filming myself. The Z8 doesn't even have it. Look, it only faces down and faces up, and you could kind of like turn it a little bit. That's kind of weird. It looks cool. With my Z6, oh, forget about it. This thing only just kind of pops down and that's it. So when I film myself, using this, my old Z6 camera, I had to have a monitor on top of it so that I could actually see myself and have a selfie video. The EVF Viewfinder has over 5,000 pixels. It's got a 4,000 nit brightness. It's got 120 frames per second, so it's smooth. The DSLR days was my favorite when it comes to photography, because when you look at the viewfinder, it's a mirror. You see exactly what your lens is seeing, so when you shoot it, you feel like it's part of your body because you're just looking at a lens. As they were creating electronic viewfinders for the mirrorless cameras, the screen inside of the EVF wasn't as great, wasn't as good. So then it felt like you're looking at a tiny computer monitor. It detached a little bit, so it kind of forced me to look at the screen instead. I lost that connection of putting the eye in there because it just didn't feel smooth. It didn't feel natural. It felt like I was looking at a cheap computer monitor that's that tiny. But this one, they just made it super buttery. They made it super good. So now you could get back into looking through the viewfinder to get your perfect shots and just making it clear. Even for videos, dual car slots. right? My Nikon Z6 only had one card slot. And I know the version 2 has dual card slot as well. The Z6 III also has dual card slot. One is a CFEXPRESS card and the next one is an SD card. And luckily, my wife also bought me those cards right over here. There it is. I got the V60 SD cards and then I got the CFEXPRESS 512 gigabyte card. So interesting thing about what other camera like Sony does that our Nikon does is that even though the photos could be backed up twice in dual cards, videos cannot be backed up. I wonder if there's a firmware that's gonna come out that could make that happen. So the Nikon Z6 III, they say, has the very best IBIS, the image stabilization, out of all my cameras. The Z6 IBIS is okay. It still isn't perfect. When I'm using a gimbal, there are some movements that just feels weird. It's smooth too. It's not perfect. It's not as good as my Panasonic ones that I'm experiencing. Still gets the job done. This one is supposed to be the best. 8 stops. So if you're taking photos, you could have the shutter so low that up to 8 stop that you could get smooth, non-blurry photos by hand holding it. There's 3 modes in image stabilization on our Z cameras. First one is the VR, on and off. Lens is the one that's doing all the work. Next one, put in a lens that doesn't have VR, you turn on the IBIS that's in your camera. That does an amazing work of stabilizing your shot for both photos and videos, especially videos. I'm hand holding my cameras all the time. The last one, electronic image stabilization. When you turn that E stabilization on, I've always made a video talking about, hey, that's a tripod mode. You can't move around. No matter what you're doing, it tries to stay put and gives you a awesome, just a stable shot that doesn't even move. I'm using my 70-200 and at 200 millimeter, it'll just lock in and doesn't shake at all. But now they upgraded that. So if you have E stabilization on, you can now walk with it. Not only will it give you a tripod mode where it stays still, when you move, it doesn't warp. It doesn't freak out like how normally it would on our Nikon cameras. So now when you move, it will move even better, smoother. Of course, it comes with a little tool on the bottom that you can use to tighten this up. Look how beautiful that is. Oh, I love camera gears. Don't you? Don't you love camera gears? It's like the most expensive hobby if you're doing it as a hobby. And if it's a business, then it's the most expensive. Not the most expensive, but you know, you're always spending money to upgrade. So another cool feature Nikon Z6 III has is under cranking your shutters. None of my camera has it. My Parizak has the Sony camera, and Sony cameras has it, where you could bring down the shutter all the way to 20th of a second, all the way to 10, below, and it creates this dreamy effect that I love creating every once in a while. At nighttime, daytime, it just has this cool blurry effect that it just looks cool to me. Normal cameras like my Nikon Z6 or Z6 III, I'm telling you, it does so much. It does so much that for $2,000, this is the best deal. I'm telling you, all that, this also shoots Nikon RAW video internally. 6K internal RAW, 5.6K ProRes, high quality internally. It's a beast. I love the way it looks. It's just very vibrant to me. I love the skin tone, and this Nikon has a portrait mode in the picture profile that just makes people look pretty. Just the color looks pleasant, the skin is nice, so you could definitely play with that if you ever want to make sure that the person that you're filming has a clean look, has a pretty look. Great for filming brides, for sure. This is the first time I own this one right here. This is by Newer, and all it does is you put this on the bottom right here. This thing also comes with a tiny key too. All these rigs are coming out with little magnetic screws. Ever since Nikon bought out Red camera, Red's the reason why a lot of cameras didn't have RAW videos. They took RAW videos and they patented, so anybody who came out with any kind of RAW, ProRes RAW, Nikon RAW, B-RAW, whatever, they would just take them to court and prevent anyone from doing it. And ever since Nikon bought them out, I feel like they're being way more lenient and they're letting other companies create RAW. And just like what my partner Zach said, the Sony FX3 and 30 might eventually come out with a RAW for their camera. So thank you, Nikon, for getting it and being nice to everybody. I appreciate that. The V-mount battery back here. That looks crazy. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Please leave a comment, and I will see you next time. Cool. That's it.